Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. The win streak is over, and the Phillies have a Ranger Suarez problem. What in the world do they do with him the rest of the year? We'll discuss on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic, doing sports talk radio here in Philadelphia for over 5 years. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 4 seasons, and this is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure that if you're checking us out in podcast form, just listening to the episode today, that you're rating and reviewing. You can get us wherever you get your podcast, and you can also get us on YouTube. If you're doing that, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It's free and easy, and it'll get you notifications when new episodes are posted. It helps you out. It helps us out significantly here on Locked On Phillies. So thank you to everyone who's done that and everyone who's going to. Also, thank you to today's sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Go ahead and check out our folks over at Game Time. We're obviously going to lead off with a reaction to last night's loss to the Reds, a 6-1 final, where Ranger Suarez again looked like a problem point for the rotation. Speaking of rotations, later on in the show, we're going to discuss the outfield rotation. Just give a little update to how things have been going, because Rob Thomson has been trying to kind of manually handle this thing without setting it up and letting it settle out. And it's been working. Last night, it did not. And we'll round out with a preview of Phil's Reds Game 3 today at 5:10 p.m. Weird time, whatever. Phil's need to find a way to win this game, win this series. Christopher Sanchez goes to the bump. So we'll get into all of that. But where we start today is a discussion about Ranger Suarez, because last night he was, again, not good. He was not typical Ranger Suarez that we've seen in the earlier parts of this year, but he was typical Ranger Suarez for what we've seen in the latter parts of recent years. He only went 5 1/3 innings, 92 pitches. So the pitch count wasn't crazy high, but he gave up 10 hits, 6 earned, walked 2, only struck out 3. He did give up a home run in the game. That's a bad stat line. There's no other way to put it. Right now, you can look at it and say, oh, in that one inning, he did get screwed by a bad call by the home plate umpire. There should have been a strike 3 that would have been out 3, and instead that was not called. And that's a mistake by the umpire. But whatever. That's not why the Phillies lost the game, right? Sometimes they will have more impact when umpires miss calls. That one last night, it was a bad spot. But the problem with Ranger is his velo is down so much that if he makes even a slight mistake with command, he's going to get smoked, right? That's what we've seen. And the Reds, solid baseball team, right? They're okay. Middle of the pack baseball team in the majors. They're not like a high level postseason caliber opponent, with all due respect to the Cincinnati Reds offense. If you're getting hit around by them, wait till you see the Dodgers. Wait till you see the Mets, the Brewers, the Cubs, teams like that in games that matter heavily. I don't think anybody is waking up this morning saying, I feel great about Ranger Suarez starting a postseason game for this team. Now, what I will say in Rangers' defense, and this is an important thing to think about. Last year, we had these same issues. You might say, Connor, that's a bad thing. You're right for the regular season. But then he showed up in the final game of that series with the Mets, and he just battled. No moment's too big for him. He has a very low heart rate. He is ready for big moments, and he's had big moments for this team in the past in the postseason. So I'm not saying Ranger Suarez stinks, get him off this baseball team, never let him throw in a postseason game. Like, no, that's a guy that I want to go to battle with. And the question now is, what role does he hold as we ride into battle together in Red October, or even for the rest of the season? I don't know what the best plan for Ranger Suarez is going forward. We talked on yesterday's episode about Aaron Nola coming back. Now, what you could do is you could say, oh, Ranger Suarez's back is sore. We're going to put him on the 10-day injured list, 15-day injured list. Nola comes back, and you're able to keep the same 5-man rotation, give Ranger some downtime to maybe recover a little bit of that velocity, if that is possible. And then you can bring him back and see how that works. I want to read through a couple things for you because last night I put out a tweet on Ranger Suarez. And as I pulled this up on my Twitter, you can follow me at ConnorThomas975. If you're watching on the YouTube, my handle's down there on the bottom left of your screen. As I'm pulling this up, I do want to also say the offense has not been good through the first 2 games in Cincinnati. They got shut out through 7 in game 1. They were getting no hit for more than half the game last night. They've seemed lost at the plate. I don't know what it is. The approach just hasn't been great. We're going to discuss a little bit more about that in the outfield rotation segment, but I'm not putting all of this on Ranger. Oh, it's Ranger's fault. He stinks. He's terrible. He cost the team. No, the offense was pretty bad too. So we need to see a wake up from the offense when they face Hunter Green in the series finale today. And we'll talk about that with the preview. But I put out this tweet last night. Well, the offense has stunk, but we have a Ranger Suarez problem too. He's fading fast in this second half. Not sure what the right plan is for him going forward. And a bunch of you on social media, on X, decided to give me your ideas for plans, which I very much appreciate. Thank you so much for interacting. And I love it when I get tweets and responses. I got a bunch to this. So I want to read through a couple. Carl Toned says he needs to work out with Sanchez and stop going to the Philly bodegas. There were a couple of people chiming in there saying Ranger needs to get in better shape. I don't know that it's a better shape thing. I don't, because I don't look at him and say, oh, okay, I don't look at Ranger and go, that guy's fat. That guy's out of shape. His cardio is down. Like, no, I don't think that's it. Some guys' bodies are just not built to handle the workload of a full Major League Baseball season. Ranger Suarez could be one of those guys. We see dudes all the time, right? Injury prone. Can't get their innings count up. Can't get their pitch count up. Can't consistently do that. And that's why it's so impressive when you see guys like what Nola has been in his career for the Phillies, what Wheeler has been since the Phillies have signed, what Sanchez has been since the Phillies have truly made him part of the rotation, going out there and taking the ball every day and having this level of production pretty much season after season after season, right? That's an impressive thing. But I don't think it's a Ranger Suarez's out of shape thing. I just think Ranger Suarez's body is potentially not built to throw full seasons as a starter and get to that innings count, which is why the Phillies have not signed him to a contract past this year. That's why that money went to Christopher Sanchez. A lot of people, D'Lo, Randy Harbison, there are a bunch of people who are checking in and saying, Aaron Nola, Ranger Suarez is who we thought he was. And that's something that I want to talk about because a lot of people had this concern, right? They were worried that in the second half of the season, he was going to have this type of drop-off. And for that reason, you wanted to trade him at the deadline. Now, here's what I'll say. I'll go back to my original point on Ranger, which is in a postseason series, I want that dude on my side. I do. I don't want him on the other side. Now, you can choose how much you want to use him, when he throws in the rotation, how much he throws, if it's bullpen or starting. That's something else that we'll talk about in a second. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to move Ranger Suarez to another contender. And we didn't know this at that point, at the trade deadline. July 31st, we were not sure that Ranger Suarez was going to have this drop off again. Now, you could assume based on his previous years, but you know what they say about assumptions. So I was very comfortable. In fact, I thought it was a necessity that the Phillies kept him and did not trade him. I thought it would be silly to move an asset like that who can help your rotation or your bullpen in the postseason to another team to fill a bullpen role. You did that anyway with the Joan Duran acquisition. So I don't think that this is a situation where it's like, oh, we should have traded Ranger, right? I think that's people trying to go back and prove a previous point that was wrong at the time you were making it. They were never moving on from Ranger Suarez, right? I'll just tell you right now, right? It was never, ever on the docket for them to move. I got good information from a well-placed source months ago about Ranger Suarez. They're not even considering moving him, right? He was not going anywhere ever. So anyone who looks back and says, oh, well, they should have traded, that was not on the table, right? He was going to be here. And if you're saying, well, we should have seen this coming anyway, whether he was going to be here or not, you're probably right. And it's something we've discussed. Could Ranger fall off? Absolutely. Has he had issues in the past? For sure. But you can't just get rid of a guy that was pitching so well in the first half of the season because you're afraid of what could happen, right? You got to stick to your guns and you also have the guys to make up for it. So here's my current plan for Ranger Suarez. If I was running the operations for the Philadelphia Phillies, I would not move him to the bullpen right now because, one, it feels early for that move. Two, you're already getting back Jose Alvarado. You added David Robertson, Joan Duran. You're bringing Aaron Nola back. It's a lot of stuff that you'd have to do to move people out of the bullpen and guys that have been solid in the bullpen, which is wild to say considering how bad this bullpen was at the start of the year. I would talk to Ranger. I'd be like, hey, buddy, we got to put you on the injured list. We got to come up with something. Your back sore, your shoulder sore, ankle sprain like Aaron Nola had when he first went out, non-baseball related. Who knows? Pick your poison. You're going on the injured list. Nola's getting your spot in the rotation. Take a week or two off, and then we will see what you are. Maybe that re-energizes him. Maybe it doesn't. And then when he comes back, you give him 1 or 2 starts. And if those don't work, well, then you go ahead and you toss him in the bullpen and you cross that bridge when you come to it there. But right now, that's what I would do. When Nola comes back, Ranger goes. And that means Zach Wheeler is going to have to continue to pitch through stuff. But he says he's healthy. And Wheeler velo down is a lot different than Ranger velo down. One of those guys is throwing 95, 96. One of those dudes is throwing 89, 90, 91. So we have a Ranger Suarez problem. You have the arms in the rotation and coming back to make up for it, but it is not ideal. And the Phillies have a tricky situation for them to try and figure out when it comes to how they're going to handle Ranger and the rotation as we draw closer to the postseason. Coming up next, another rotation that the Phillies are trying to handle, the outfield rotation. Rob Thomson has done an outstanding job of it so far. But I think last night showed you why sometimes you can rely on that too much. And we'll start to talk about when things need to become set. We'll discuss that as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about open phone first, though, because if you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had a service emergency, like a burst pipe. If the first plumber didn't answer, well, did you wait? You sit there? You leave a message? No, you called the next one. That's why having a reliable business line is so important, and that's why you need open phone. Open phone is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or computer. Maybe you used to juggle 2 phones, right? Just to keep business and personal calls separate. Open phone solves that instantly. Your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox. So there's no more communication internally, like who's handling this. And the AI agent handles after-hour calls, answers common questions, and captures leads so that you're never going to miss a customer again. Open phone is also offering Locked On Phillies listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedonmlb. That's OPENPHONE, openphone.com/lockedonmlb. And if you have existing numbers with another service, Open Phone is going to port them over at no extra charge. Open Phone. No missed calls, no missed customers. Go ahead and check them out at openphone.com. So the outfield rotation has all of a sudden gotten trickier. And we knew that it would, right? What the Phillies were doing over the past, week and a half of baseball was not sustainable, right? You're not just going to mix and match and say, okay, we're going to try Kepler here and Marsh here and Bader here and Castellanos here and Wilson here and all of this stuff and hit every single time. There will be days where a guy is standing somewhere that seems like he shouldn't be. And last night that happened, in my opinion, with Max Kepler. Now, this was the same at bat where Ranger Suarez, as I said earlier, got screwed over by the home plate umpire. Should have led to a strikeout, and strike 3 was called a ball. And then a ball gets roped down the line, and Max Kepler was going over to play it, misplayed it, in my opinion. Instead of selling out for the ball, he stayed upright. He did not dive. The ball scoots under his glove. It goes to the wall. And end up having 2 runs score on the play anyway. The idea of not diving is to not set up a situation where both those runs score. Well, because he misplayed it enough that it got to the wall, he allowed those 2 runs to score anyway. Again, Ranger Suarez got to be better on the mound. But Max Kepler looked like he could have made a better effort at making that play. When I say make a better effort, I don't mean he wasn't trying. I mean that he could have chosen a better option for trying to field that ball, right? And you can't help but think Brandon Marsh, who is a better defensive player than Max Kepler, would have given a better bid at that play. And we know that Harrison Bader is a better center fielder than Brandon Marsh. We've already seen that. You remember when Bader took back that home run in Texas off the bat of Corey Seager. You've seen that he's a 2021 Gold Glove winner, and you might say, Connor, that's 4 years ago. I would say, okay, tell me when Max Kepler, Nick Castellanos, Brandon Marsh, or Weston Wilson won their last Gold Glove. Because the answer to that would be never. So he's your best defensive outfielder. Harrison Bader in center, Marsh in left, I think would have given you a better chance to win that game. Now, the thought process there was you were facing a righty on the mound. So Brady Singer goes out there and you say, we want the lefty-heavy lineup. And I'm not surprised that they went the way that they did. But part of the pitfalls of that outfield is they're not great defensively. A lot of people don't see Marsh as a true center fielder. Now, I like his defense better than the average person. But even I am very willing to admit that I'd rather have Harrison Bader in center. Now, do I like Marsh's defense in left? Hell yeah, I do. He's very good over in left field, I think. Just eye test says he gets to some balls that other guys don't get to. He makes some great plays out there. He will also make some overly aggressive bad plays or make some bad reads. And that's why he's a league average outfielder. But that's okay. You can win with a league average outfielder. Max Kepler is a league below average outfielder this year because he hasn't been hitting for anything. His defense is serviceable. Nick Castellanos out in right field, his defense is below serviceable, but his offense normally keeps him in the lineup. And now, again, we have Nick Castellanos with another rough night. He did have a hit in the books to break up the no-hitter, but it was just a well-struck ground ball that Elly De La Cruz seemed to misplay at shortstop for the Reds. So I'm not even looking at that as, oh, well, maybe Castellanos starts something there. He hit it hard. He didn't just lean over and pop it up to the right side like we've been seeing him do so much lately. He didn't strike out in that at-bat. So I guess steps in the right direction. But this was the first game where I looked at Rob Thompson's outfield rotation and said, hey, tonight, it did not give you the best chance to win, or it did not help you win. Because some nights you may not have the best outfield out there, but it moves you in a positive direction anyway. Like, oh, it could have been better, but they played well and you won anyway, so whatever. But I'd imagine if you just look at the averages around the outfield, what guys are hitting, what their typical fielding ability is, you're going to have, as the sample size increases in this outfield rotation, more misses than hits. And I'm not just talking about the guys are going to get out more than they get on base. That's everybody in baseball, right? Nobody's batting over 500 at the major league level right now with any type of sample size. Not possible. So that's not exactly what I'm saying, but I'm saying Rob Thompson's decision-making is going to look more faulty by the day because there are going to be more opportunities to get this wrong than there are to get this right. Unless the top of the lineup gets hot again. Bryce Harper, big-time home run last night. Can't even say that with a straight face. I mean, he hit it well, but it was in a spot where it didn't matter remotely to the outcome of the game. They were down 6-0 in the ninth, and Harper goes yard to make it 6-1. Great, you didn't get shut out. My point is, though, guys like Turner, Schwarber, Harper, Realmuto, maybe Bohm when he comes back. Realmuto did not play last night. Rafael Marchand was behind the dish. Maybe those guys can make up for this outfield rotation and make Rob Thomson look smarter by just continuing to win ball games in spite of what's going on out there. But I've really seen just about enough of the outfield rotation. Here's what I would say. So the Phillies have one more game in Cincinnati. That's tonight. Then they have 4 games down in Washington. No off day this week. They play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday in Washington. By the way, I'll be down there Friday and Saturday for games. So if you're around and see me, say what's up. But you'll be getting good live content from the stadium, post-game reaction videos from inside Nationals Park, just like I did at Yankee Stadium about a month ago now. So there's a lot of stuff that I'll be doing down there content-wise, just an aside as far as that's concerned. But when they get done that series with the Nationals, that ends this road trip, this 10-game road trip. When you get back to Citizens Bank Park, I would like to see Harrison Bader in center field, Brandon Marsh in left field, Nick Castellanos in right field every day. And the only time that you get Weston Wilson or you get Max Kepler is if you're in a situation where one of those guys starts to struggle. That's it, right? And when I say struggle, like majorly struggle, like you can't keep them out there. I'd want to see those guys like 4 out of every 5 games. That outfield, that alignment. And I think it's about time. Normally, I would be a little bit more patient because my line, if you haven't heard this from me before, maybe this is your first season following along with us on Locked On Phillies. And I appreciate you if this is the first time you spent a season along with us, or even if you're just checking us out for the first time today. But for me, one of the principles of baseball management is the time where you need to start really ramping up for the postseason. Like everything needs to be settled. Here's where we start to hit our launching pad into October, 2 weeks into September. The halfway point of the month of September is when I need to see everything settled by. And right now, it's August, what's today's date? The 13th. So you have time. You have like a month still till that quote unquote drop dead point. That's this arbitrary line that I just set, because that's when I think like 2 weeks of, hey, we're going after this. We're getting guys in a routine so that it doesn't feel new when you hit postseason baseball. That's something that I look at. So you have time. But for the outfield, the reason why I'm moving the timeline up significantly is because I've seen plenty of Max Kepler. I know what you're getting out of him. I've seen plenty of Weston Wilson. I have a good idea of what you're getting out of him. Like I know what Brandon Marsh can bring you. I know what Harrison Bader can bring you. I know what Nick Castellanos can and can't bring you. But he's the kind of guy that's shown you that he deserves to be out there day in and day out just because he's come out of stretches like this before. But the outfield is not something where you should still be heavily evaluating. You should know by this point what's going to work and what's not, because I feel like I know. I imagine Phillies fans feel like they know. And Bader in center, Marsh in left, and Castellanos in right is the way that this team needs to play. And I'm about ready for this rotation end. I'll give them the final game of the Red Series and the 4-game set in Washington, and come back to Philadelphia, and they better have it set. And if not, I'm going to be upset. I will be. I feel like I just said set like 40 times. Coming up next, the Phillies round out their 3-game set in Cincinnati with the Reds today at 5:10 p.m. Christopher Sanchez goes to the mound. So easy win, right? Well, there's a question mark on the mound for the Cincinnati Reds. It'll be very interesting to watch. We'll talk about it as we wrap up today's episode. Let's talk about game time first, though, because we've all been there logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with all the stress of ticket shopping. And that's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you could save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Maybe you're wondering what your view will actually look like before you buy, and other sites don't show you that. Well, the Game Time app shows you a panoramic seat view, so there are no surprises. With Game Time, the price you see is also the price you pay. No hidden fees. If you're worried about what happens if plans change, the Game Time guarantee has your back with cancellation protection and much, much more. So take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets, and also comedy, theater, baseball, basketball, football, hockey, everything. Game Time's got tickets to whatever you need. Take the guesswork out of buying those tickets and check out Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed with Game Time. All right, so the Phils are in Cincinnati again this afternoon, I guess, for the final game of their series with the Reds. Yeah, weird timing on this game. I don't know why game 1 was at 6:10, last night at 6:40, today 5:10 p.m. Just, I don't know. God only knows why the scheduling is what it is. But what I do know is that the Phillies are going with Christopher Sanchez on the mound, and he has been their most consistently great pitcher this year, and that includes Zach Wheeler. Sanchez is the number one guy in this rotation right now. With Wheeler's velocity drop, with Ranger falling off, with Luzardo's inconsistencies, with Taijuan Walker's physical limitations, Christopher Sanchez is the guy right now. And he's on the mound for you. 11-3, 2.36 ERA. He struck out 151 in 144 2/3 innings pitched. I was seeing some stuff scrolling social media. I saw some video. I'm sorry, I don't know who put it out, so I hate to not be able to credit it. But these guys were talking about his changeup and how it's just like the most unhittable pitch in baseball. He's unbelievable, and he has one of the best 1-2 punches in baseball right now, including Tarek Skubal, including Paul Skeens. He's a great pitcher. So the Phillies should feel good about their ability to shut down the Reds' offense. Now, will the Phillies be able to create offense of their own? They're seeing another righty. and it's Hunter Green on the mound for the Cincinnati Reds. Now, Green is just coming off the injured list, right? He was on the 15-day injured list with a groin injury. This is his first start back today, so we will see. And he has not had a lot of action this year, 59 and 2/3 innings. He has 73 strikeouts in those 59 and 2/3, so we know that he is a big-time strikeout pitcher. We also know that in like a third of the innings, he's given up one less home run than Christopher Sanchez. He's got 9, Sanchez has 10. So you can hit the ball out of the yard off Hunter Green. He's kind of feast or famine. Walks aren't really going to kill him, but he's got a live arm. He's a guy that can punch out a lot of batters. And the Phillies have sneaky gotten into that strikeout problem territory again. Some of the guys. Castellanos, Kepler never really left there. We know that Stott has issues with that. We know that Marsh has seen issues with that throughout this year. Schwarber is kind of in a weird stretch right now where he hasn't been swinging it as well, even though he did go yard in game 1. Harper, maybe that home run he hit last night jumpstarts him, but we will see. It's also an opportunity for Rob Thomson to show us another data point of what he feels about the outfield rotation. Because with back-to-back righties on the mound, it would be very easy for him to trot out Kepler in left again, Marsh in center again, Castellanos in right. But I just told you, I'd like to see them start to make that change. Now, I'm not saying it today because I already gave them the time frame of the rest of this road trip. But it would be very, very telling that Rob Thomson is starting to see what you're seeing and what I'm seeing if he goes with Bader in center and Marsh in left. Now, he may say that's just it has nothing to do with Kepler. We just want to keep getting Bader some time out there. We don't want him to sit too often. Sure, say whatever you need to say. But I want to see Harrison Bader in center field, and I want to see Marsh in left field. So if that happens today, I'm starting to get the feeling that Rob Thomson is hearing things, making his own evaluation. I don't think he's making these roster decisions, lineup decisions based on the Locked On Phillies episode he watched that morning. I mean, that's fine. You want to give me a call, Robbie? You want to tweet me? Let me know. I'll help you put together the lineup. But I don't think he's looking for my advice anytime soon on that. My point is just that will show you where his mind's kind of at. And if he doesn't, well, maybe he's still sticking to his guns that more often than not since the trade deadline, it has worked. I'll be watching. The closest thing that I'm watching in today's game individually is going to be Nick Castellanos because I believe he's going to play again. If he doesn't, well, that's already everything I need to see. They're starting to consider platooning him. If he does play, what do his bats look like? Because he's going to need to start coming out of this soon. And last night, his bats didn't look much better to me. He had one that he rolled over on but hit it hard. The others were more of the same. So I would like to see more out of Nick Castellanos individually. But as far as the overall team assessment that we should be making out of the 5:10 p.m. start today up in Cincinnati, they should win this game. They should win this series. If they don't, that's a disappointment. And if the offense doesn't go out there and produce 5 or 6 runs today, that's also a disappointment. I know that might be a lofty goal, but like you can't come out of this series in Cincinnati. You scored 5 runs total in the first 2 games after beating the brakes off the Rangers a couple times. Well, one time where you had 9, but like handling business down there in Texas. That was the best starting rotation in baseball that you saw in Texas. This is, all due respect again, the Cincinnati Reds. And I know teams have good series, teams have bad series. It happens to everybody. But I need to see them continually be able to produce offensively because this is going to start opening up a conversation which I don't want to have. And that's they're good at points, but clearly they're not consistent. And we've seen that from Phillies teams in the postseason in the past. And I haven't seen anything that makes me believe that they're not going to collapse in the postseason again. And you know what? If you say that right now, I cannot debate you. Now, we're both just guessing, but you have more history on your side if you're on that side of the argument. And that's what you worry about when you see a performance like yesterday in Cincinnati, even if it's only 1 game. But if it happens again today, well, that's 2 games. And I want them to have momentum going into this series in Washington that starts tomorrow because the Nationals stink. And if you win this series finale against the Reds, and you've now won, 5 of your last 6, and all of these series in a row and everything, and you roll into Washington feeling good, there's a much better chance that you can do some serious damage in that series. Take 3 of 4. Take 4 of 4 and continue to roll through this road trip. Or If you drop this one against Cincinnati, then you might be rolling in with a little bit of pressure saying, hey, we have to take advantage of this stretch against the Nationals. Sometimes forcing yourself to do too much can lead to losing games against opponents you should beat. So big game for momentum building heading into a bigger series, a 4-game divisional series on the road in Washington. Hopefully the Phils win tonight. Hopefully we're talking about it on tomorrow's episode. But that's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff. And make sure you're checking out, as soon as the game goes final, Locked On Phillies Postcast with Mark Farzetta. It's a live, immediate reaction to the Philadelphia Phillies' most recent game. Happens every time they play. So check out Mark Farzetta's work. And keep an eye on everything we've got going on Locked On Phillies. That's all for today's episode. So I will talk to you next time on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.